E... Opa.
Hello.
Hey. Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us well?
I got you. Thanks for having me.
We are grateful, very happy and honored to have you here. You are.
That's very kind of you. Happy
Really.
to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Everyone in Brazil loves you. I guarantee you.
I
that.
don't know about everybody. I've seen some tweets. I don't think that's so true, but
Okay, most of people.
okay, I'll take it. All right, very good.
Quer falar alguma coisa? Wanna talk something?
No, it's a really nice moment to have you here. So cheers, mate.
Salut. Thank you so much.
Oh man, that's awesome.
You gotta be ready, right?
What are you having here? What are you having there?
Oh, it's a Bronx Pale Ale. It's a local New York beer.
Nice. I'm having a Russian roulette, Imperial IPA.
There you go. Now you
Strong
talk.
stuff.
Love it.
I'm feeling a little excluded here, but okay.
All right.
No beer for me. So can we start with your?
Yep. Whenever you're ready. Yep. Good to go.
Again, we are very happy and thank you very much for your time. So we want to start. The first question we have to you. It's how did you become a Packers fan? Correct me if I'm wrong, but your first Lambeau Field game, you were 3 years old against the Lions.
That's right. Wow, that's some impressive research. Yeah, my grandpa had season tickets, and he took me to a game when I was very little. I was 3, and I don't remember that it was the Lions, but I worked out, kind of when he took me and when it would have been, and it was a Lions game, and they did win, which was very rare those days. But
yeah,
I do, and I remember where the seats were. They were up in the bowl, looking down near towards the south end zone, and I've been a Packers fan my whole life. I mean, I don't ever remember not being one. I was born. I lived in Wisconsin. My dad was a huge fan. We watched games together. My grandpa would take me to games, and yeah, it's always been part of my life.
Great. So, how was for us here in Brazil, we are very far, another culture, another world. We have to call it here American football, because football is soccer.
Right, of course.
So, most of us dream to be on Lambeau Field in Wisconsin. I am one of them. So, how was the experience of growing up? You said your whole life you was a Packer fan. How was your experience growing up as a Packer fan? So it became a great part of our life.
Well, I think anybody from that area, it becomes part of who you are. Not everybody's as diehard as maybe myself or Corey Benke, my co-founder, but every kind of life revolves around it, especially back then when, their internet didn't exist and there were 3 channels on the television, and you obsessed about the Packers. You talked about them all the time. It drove every conversation. And I think I just kind of naturally gravitated towards the atmosphere around the stadium, the tailgating, things like communities and families coming together around it. And I hear a lot of people from other parts of the country who talk about college football that way, the tailgating and the pageantry and how that really binds a community. In, Green Bay and Wisconsin, there's the Badgers and Madison, and that is its very own specific thing. But the Packers kind of envelop the whole state, and it's a real throwback, Another kind of way I connected to it, I talk about my grandpa taking me to the game. I used to have, dinners and lunches with my grandma, and she would talk about going to watch the Ice Bowl, or going and being at these legendary games and seeing the guys at the hotel, Like back then, obviously, it was very different. The guys were allowed to be up and around town for some parts of it, but so there was a real interaction with the community, and I think that helped form the bond that then got passed down to now it's a real way of life, and it's certainly become a way of life for me.
Yeah.
And really nice. And Aaron, how did you decide to transform passion into job, to be insider, and how you met Corey, how you two had the idea to found the Cheesehead TV?
Well, I mean, it's been a long road. I mean, Cheesehead TV now is very different comparative to when we started it. I was in a day job, as was Corey, back in 2007. I was really just blogging about football, and I didn't have any aim to it. I just needed something creative to do. And Corey had the idea of let's start a podcast, you know, and I said, what's a podcast? Because back then no one had podcasts, you know, no one was doing that. But he had this whole idea. He was like, you keep writing and we'll do the podcast and we'll make a website and we'll call it Cheesehead TV. He already had the name picked out. That is all on him. And I was just like, yeah, for me, it was like I live in the city. And when you come to New York City, you get separated, you know, it's like you think you're coming and you're going to hang out with your friends all the time, but you guys live in separate parts of the city. You get busy and you hardly ever see your friends. So I thought it was a really good way, a really good excuse for me to see Corey every week. Basically, we would drink some beer and talk some football, right? And that was very much a side thing at the time. But I think because we are such geeks about it and so passionate about it, we took it very seriously. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times, say, I'd be at the grocery store with my daughters and I would get an alert on my phone and like, oh, we got to go. We got to go. You know, there's news. I got to blog about the news. You know, I got to get home and get it on the website. I think I got sick of that after a while. But that's how, you know, I was like a quote unquote beat reporter. I had to get it done. I had to do it now. I had to be up there. I got to be first, you know. Now I think that's kind of silly looking back on it, but that's what kind of drove me. And I remember working on it during my regular job. I had a 9-to-5 job, but I was like, I had an Excel spreadsheet that was really TweetDeck. It looked like Excel, but it was really me following along with tweets from practice, you know? So I was always kind of plugged in, doing it on the side. And then as I got jobs covering the league, you know, because Cheesehead TV was growing, Bleacher Report found me and they wanted me to help with their video side here in New York. And then I went to Sports Illustrated and then I covered the team for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel and the Green Bay Press Gazette. And that's when I really kind of thought about it as far as making it something I really wanted to do as far as Cheesehead TV goes, because Corey is really the one who said, why are you making all this content and doing all this stuff for this team that you love, but you can't show that passion? You know, that's what was kind of weird about being on the beat. You know, you're in the press box, you can't cheer. You go to the locker room, you can't say anything like you know, you can't be a fan. You've got to be completely dispassionate. And even producing content, I couldn't really show any kind of, you know, enthusiasm for the team. So Corey was really the one who said, why don't you stop doing that? Come back and do this and we'll make it full time and we'll make it real, so to speak. And that was 2 years ago. And that's what we're doing now.
Yeah. It's a very different experience to write on your own Cheeseheads TV and on Bleacher Report and another.
Very much so. Yeah.
Because in Cheesehead TV, you can be more passionate, just like you said.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just, yeah, to even having a point of view or an opinion that isn't driven by, well, I have to be fair. I don't want to be fair. I'm a Packers fan. You know, I want to be partial to the Packers. That's my whole reason for doing this. You know, it's a lot of fun.
That's what makes fun, right?
Definitely. 100%.
So, you also wrote for Packers News with your big pal, Bob McGuinn. What was the experience with him?
I mean, look, he was the ultimate professional. He and I certainly had our differences when I joined, but you know, pretty much once the gig starts, once the season starts, I barely dealt with them. I mean, I still worked out of here in New York, and I would fly in for the games. We would record a video after the games, and that was it. So that part of it was fine. I mean, I was really there to help augment social media, the video side of things, kind of get them started in that regard. And look, if you know that never happens, then I don't think I have a lot of the relationships I do now with the people on the beat. Not just the people I worked with, but people like Domofsky and Wilde and guys who I really respect and who do a great job. And Bill Huber, Tom Oates, these guys who are in there each and every day and do the work that I think a lot of people maybe take for granted or don't maybe appreciate as much as they should. But like, I love that I made those connections and I made those friendships. Guys like Wes Hodkiewicz, you know, I really like that guy. I think he does amazing work. And if I hadn't been on the beat, I probably wouldn't know him as well as I do. So yeah, it's just, that time was short, but I really, really enjoyed it. And I really value what I got out of it.
Short, but very important, as it
Very
seems.
much so. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Nice.
And Aaron, what's your most memorable game from all the time? Even if you're in Lambeau or watching on TV, what's the most memorable game you ever watched for the Packers that you remember?
Oh man, I mean there are several, right? I mean there's always going to be different games that mean something to you for different reasons. I mean obviously the Super Bowl, the latest Super Bowl comes to mind just because I was with my daughters and that meant a lot to me. Because the idea being, you know, like I said, when Cheesehead TV first started, I was very obsessed. I mean, I'm still pretty obsessed, but I was very much driven by it. And I think I was very kind of so focused on it. I think sometimes my girls would be like, why is dad so crazy about this? You know? And it was, you know, and when you watch some really heartbreaking playoff losses, your kids see you get really kind of depressed because of it. I just love the fact that my girls were there to watch me enjoy a Packers victory in the Super Bowl. So that game to me means a lot, and not just for what happened on the field, but for what it meant as far as like, I knew my girls would appreciate that, you know, because Cheesehead TV covered that game. Corey actually went to Dallas and covered that game for the website, you know, and I could have gone, but I literally did not do it because of that reason. Like I wanted my girls and I to be together when I watched it. So that game will always have a really special place in my heart, even more so than the fact that the Packers won the Super Bowl. It's like we got to experience it together.
That's very, very beautiful.
Nice.
So now it's a more difficult question. What all-time 3 favorite Packer players? All time. You can.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
But 3 to start.
Yeah, 3. Well, Bart Starr is always number 1. He's always going to be number 1. I think Bart is the absolute legend, gentleman, one of the GOATs, no doubt about it. After that, it's got to be Brett Favre, because Brett is the one who completely changed things around in Green Bay, changed the fact that this was a team that was never going to win anything to, oh my God, I think this team might actually win something. I mean, I can't tell you how many seasons we went through, you know, growing up where it really felt like we were never going to make the playoffs, let alone get to a Super Bowl. I just didn't think it was possible. And then all of a sudden your team is doing it. And it's a large part because of Brett. So yeah, it's got to be Starr, Favre. And then
the third one.
That third one is tough. That third one is tough. A lot of people, a lot of guys vying for that spot, but I'll go with funnily enough, I'll go with Tom Crabtree.
Tom Crabtree?
Yep, no doubt. And this is true. He is one of the first Packers players who I ever kind of interacted with, who like treated me like, you know what, you're just a guy who likes the Packers, or you're just a dude who you're just a dude. And it was a real kind of eye-opening moment for me. It was like, wow, this guy's really cool. And he like kind of just wants to accept me and talk about not only just the Packers, but just, you know, whatever. We talked about like, I don't know, bad music and movies and things like that. And it was like the first time that a player had ever kind of just, you know, talk to me rather than give you some kind of, you know, okay, well, I really think that, you know, we're going to do really well on Sunday, or some cliched answer. Tom was like the first guy who was ever like, hey man, what do you think about this new Metallica record or whatever? Like, you know, he was just a dude and he was cool. And so he's always going to have a special place for me.
Nice. He's still this dude, right?
Absolutely.
Twitter.
Absolutely. He's a horrible Madden player, but he's a really good guy.
And Aaron, talking about the team right now, we can see that the defense lost last season identity. It's not even close. No pressures. No, it's like a totally different unit. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, the major difference for me, and it's funny because after the offseason, where you knew they didn't make many changes, there weren't a lot of different personnel, you know, brought in or what have you. It was kind of on Mike Pettin to get this group playing back to the level it was at and hopefully improve. We haven't seen much change from what he was doing last year, and I think teams have done their due diligence and they've studied over the offseason and they know all his tendencies and they're taking advantage of them. Now, that said, there are times when there are guys in position to make plays and they're not making them. And that's not just, I know a lot has been made about Preston Smith, and it's true. He is not playing up to snuff. He is not doing as well as last year. He's got to start winning some one-on-ones. But even Zadarius is not playing as well, is not producing as much pressure. Jair Alexander is a great player playing lights-out football, who should probably have 2 more interceptions than he has. He just needs to start holding on to the ball. Adrian Amos had a pick in his hands this past weekend. He lets it go through. So it's not like guys haven't been in position to make plays. They're just not closing. But I think it really does come down to Mike Pettin, though, because you knew turnovers weren't – you can't count on turnovers being up every single year. That just never happens. You're always going to regress a little bit. So you kind of expected that. But their play in the red zone has been nowhere near as good. I'm okay with they march between the 20s, from the 20-yard line to the 20-yard line. I understand it a little bit. The bend but don't break. Well, I kind of hate that phrase. But they keep breaking. There's bending and breaking. There's no bend but don't break. There's bend and then break. If they're going to continue playing the style that they've been playing, they have got to get better in the red zone. Make people kick field goals instead of score touchdowns, because right now teams are absolutely taking advantage of them down there.
Yeah. So the Packer, a unit that we here in Cheeseheads Brasil we talk a lot on the preseason was the defensive line unit, especially the defensive tackles. Kenny Clark is there, but do you think it's besides Pettin, we could have had some help there on the preseason, especially in this unit?
Yeah.
Because there's
possibly
basically no pressure in the middle. Zadarius has to play a lot of snaps there. So.
Right. And, I think, yes. Could they have? Probably. We know they offered Snacks Harrison a contract, and he turned them down. I don't think there's any other game changers out there that would have made a monster difference. They did bring in some people, but one got hurt. Another guy, I think, just got cut, blah, blah, blah. So I think overall, they've held up okay, especially they've improved as the year has gone on, and that's what you want to see. Tyler Lancaster getting hurt really puts them in a bind, because he was actually playing surprisingly better as the year went on. I thought each week he was getting better, and now he's hurt. Of course, Kenny's back, so that helps. Hopefully he keeps rounding into shape. I do think you saw a little bit of rust there against the Bucs. But yeah, could he have done more to fortify it? I think so, but you got to remember, he's paid Kenny Clark. He's still got Brian has paid Kenny Clark. He's got to figure out a way to pay David Bakhtiari. You still got Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams who are going to be free agents. You've still got Kevin King to pay. So it's not like you could ever expect him to go out and go crazy in free agency. That was never going to happen. So I think he tried to do what he could, but he was kind of hamstrung by the situation.
All right.
And Aaron, you're really famous here in Brazil. We really love you.
You say that. I don't believe it, though.
But
I don't know.
It's true.
It's true. It's true.
All right.
And Cheeseheads Brazil, it's probably exists only because the Cheeseheads TV. We're really inspired by you. But there's one sketch that you're really famous over here. That is the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh boy!
Like in the WhatsApp groups and the Twitter, we always reply you good and bad and ugly. So you ask you to do a good, bad and ugly from the season, like the 6 weeks from the start of the season. Can you do that
for the first 6 games? Yeah, sure.
Yes.
With the good, we've got Aaron Rodgers discovering the rhythm of the offense and not trying to break the pocket every fucking play. With the bad, we've got Mike Pettin not doing anything to try and change his defense and allowing people to walk up and down the field. And with the ugly, we got the coronavirus completely changing the landscape of the entire league, messing with my schedule. Games on Mondays at 5 o'clock, games on Tuesdays, games not playing on Sunday. It's driving me insane. People got to mask up, take this serious, because I don't want to have to move the Super Bowl because I know the Packers are going to be playing. There you go. How's that?
Perfect.
Love it. Salud.
One last question to finalize. Whenever a player is released or requests a trade, you always push on your Twitter the news, the post with the news with no, maybe, and yes. Yes, though. can you do with a few names that we pick here?
Oh yeah, sure. Here we go. But no explanations, no analysis.
Yes,
Just yes,
no.
no, or maybe. There you go.
All right,
I'm down.
John Ross, Cincinnati Bengals.
Maybe.
Julio Jones, Atlanta Falcons.
No.
David Njoku, Cleveland Browns.
Maybe.
Quinnen Williams, New York Jets.
Maybe.
Another name I just thought. Leonard Williams, New York Giants.
No.
Okay, perfect.
It's the easiest segment ever.
Okay. So, I think you got it, Aaron.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you guys. Thanks so much for the kind words, for having me on, for inviting me at all. Really means a lot. It's incredible to hear you say that Cheesehead TV inspired you to do this. That is literally what Corey and I talked about when we first started Cheesehead TV. We used to blog about it. I used to say, like, more Packer blogs, more Packer outlets. Like, we love that people do it. We love the passion. And I do think the Packers are one of the few teams that has this kind of inspired fandom all over the world. And when Corey and I first started, that was the whole point. We knew there were people out there like us who, couldn't be in Green Bay for whatever reason, but they were still passionate about the Packers. And to hear you say that about Cheesehead TV really means a lot to me and to Corey, obviously. I love that you guys are as passionate about the Packers as you are. It really means a lot that Cheesehead TV even has a small part to play in you guys doing this. So thank you so much.
Big part. Before one final comment, my last name is Lombardi.
Get out of town.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah,
it was destiny.
It's that. People say that. So can you talk about him a little bit before you say?
Yeah, I mean, about Vince. I mean, the best part about kind of everything that transpired this offseason, as horrible as all of the social justice stuff was, as far as why it was needing to be talked about and how it dominated the headlines, was people remembering and kind of harking back to Vince Lombardi and his importance as far as, the topic of race and the NFL. And the fact that he was so forward-thinking, signing one of the very first black players to a contract, and the fact that he told local establishments in Green Bay that, if you don't allow my black players, no one on the team is going to come to your place. And when they went on the road, especially down south, and there were hotels that said black players can't stay here, Lombardi was the one who said, well, then we're not staying at your hotel. He was really forward thinking like that. And obviously, you think of Vince Lombardi, you think of the championships, and you think about his importance not only to Green Bay, but to the NFL from a football standpoint, but his importance as a man, as a figurehead in the 60s of driving race relations forward, equality forward. He was an absolute towering figure in that regard. And that's something that sometimes gets lost, but it shouldn't be, because he was incredibly important on both of those fronts.
Bigger than football, right?
Much bigger than football, no doubt about it.
That's it. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you very
Absolutely. Thanks
very
so much for having me, man. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate Aaron. Big fan.
Absolutely. Salud. Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Great to hear from you. Have a great night.
And go Pack, go.